Very much. Good morning.
All right, so let's begin straight away. Minister of Water and Resources, a state of emergency has been declared in the water sector, and there are all kinds of issues that are on the plate with regard to changing the narrative with our water systems and supply for various purposes, industrial, agricultural, as well as domestic. Where do we stand today, 3 years later?
Well, we've not been doing well, and in terms of water supply across the country and sanitation as well, because the two go together. And that is why we had to take this drastic action of seeking for the federal government to declare a state of emergency. We didn't do well in reaching the Sustainable Development, Millennium Development Goal targets, which was 2000 to 2015. And so when this administration came, it was the tail end of the MDGs. In fact, the Sustainable Development Goals had already been developed, and we subscribed to it. But we had to find out why did we fail to achieve the MDGs. And based on surveys that we undertook, we realized that there is so much. There are so many issues. One, budget will be relying on budgetary allocations, which will not work. Two, the country has not really been paying lip service to the issue of water and sanitation. So that what brought about this new action plan. One very terrifying thing was that in 1992, 32% of the Nigerian population was enjoying pipe-borne water, but as of 2050, it has dropped to 7%. So obviously, it called for declaration of a state of emergency, and this is what was done in March this year. And I'm happy to note that the world has taken notice, because declaring the state of emergency means there is, for the first time, there is a political will to really attack this issue of water and sanitation, the problems. And the world has taken notice. I've been informed that a lot of international media have carried this information, and it's a first in Africa that a country is declaring a state of emergency on water and sanitation.
So what major policies are you working on to ensure that there's a change in narrative?
Well, first we need to invest more. I need to always make this clarification that the issue of water supply and sanitation rests mainly with the states and local governments. Federal government may just make some interventions from time to time. So the action plan basically calls on the states to do more. It defines what role the federal government will play and what role the states will play. Key things include investing more. We want to create a WASH fund, Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Fund. And we also want some kind of legislation on open defecation in this country, because it's becoming a nuisance and a national embarrassment. I think Nigeria is probably the second or third largest country that still, it's into open defecation. So we've seen a state like Nasarawa State, for instance, has done some legislation on open defecation. So we feel that just merely asking people to change their behavior is not enough. We need to apply carrot and stick approach.
In terms of infrastructure, I mean, so the federal government is proceeding. We have seen you commission a number of water projects, including dams and so on and so forth. The federal government is still accelerating, if you like, the infrastructure. Where are we now with regard to infrastructure? Because I'm sure you would have heard the complaints from the subnational governments that they are resource strapped in terms of deploying funds for the construction of infrastructure.
Well, first of all, in terms of water infrastructure, the federal government alone cannot do it. We can't be in every community in the country. And constitutionally, it's not our role. Let's establish that fact. But federal government has been making some interventions. For the first time now, we've created a budget line to support state governments for urban water supply. And that is up to 30% of the investment that they're going to do. It's been in the water policy since 2000, but it was hardly ever implemented. Secondly, we've created a new program, a rural water supply program, a rural water supply and sanitation program, which we're also rolling out. It's been launched since 2016, and we're going to roll out first in Kano and Ogun states. But like I said, the states need to do more themselves. We are also concentrating on most of the infrastructure projects that we inherited in dams, in water supply, in irrigation, in hydropower. We feel it makes no sense to embark on new ones when so much has been invested in others. We inherited about 116 major projects that the federal government has been doing all over the country. And that's what we prioritize, and that's what we've been trying to commission in the past few weeks. And going forward into 2018 and 2019, we'll continue to do that. But we still want the states to do more, because essentially it's primarily their responsibility.
Still staying with the subnationals, because you've been emphasizing that the states need to do more. How many states are making deliberate efforts to support the drive at the federal level?
Well, I think every state of the Federation knows the importance of water, but it's just a question of prioritization. That is one. But I would say that many states really, Lagos, Kano, Kaduna, and a host of others are already doing quite a lot, but I know that the financial investment is limited. But we're also opening up discussion with international financial institutions like the World Bank and the ADB to invest more so that the states can have loans to build new infrastructure or to rehabilitate the existing infrastructure. It's just about funding. I think that's the most critical issue.
Well, there are some mega projects that we've heard about for over the years. Kashimbila Dam, for instance, is one of them. What is the status?
Kashimbila has like 3 or 4 components. First, there is a dam, there is a hydropower, there is a water supply component, there is an irrigation component. The dam itself has been finished and is impounded, and the power plant is ready, 40 megawatts. But we still have the transmission line, which is being handled by a different ministry, not in place. So I've been resisting pressure to go and commission that dam, because for me, it's not enough to commission the dam when the add-ons are still not ready. Dam has a purpose. Well, one of the purposes of Kashimbila Dam is also to serve as a buffer against flood control. To some extent, that has been achieved. But I think it makes more mileage for us to have the power plant in place, or at least the water supply component or an irrigation component, so that there's some optimization of the benefit that the dam will provide. So I hope that maybe in a couple of months or by next year we should be able to finish the transmission line, and at least if we have the transmission line ready, we can now commission Kashimbila Dam as a dam and hydropower project.
One of the issues you talked about when we've had you on Good Morning Nigeria has to do with desilting some of the dams in different parts of the country, particularly for agricultural purposes and even domestic use. What is the status now? We have a number of those dams lying in certain parts of the country.
To be candid, I'm not too inclined to desilting of dams because of the costs. It's easy to think that you can dredge, but when you have a dam, you need to excavate. You can't pile the spoil on the side of the dam. Otherwise, by the next rainy season, it falls back into the dam. So you have to cut it away, and usually you may find that you need to take it like 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers per cubic meter, per kilometer. You have to pay for that. So at the end of the day, when you add up the volume of earth that you are excavating by way of desilting, and now have to cut away, you might as well find a new location and build a dam with that money than to desilt and then with something that will come back in another 10, 15 years. So it really is the economics. What value are you getting at the end of the desilting? How much is it costing you to desilt? And then you measure against, you measure it and see whether there's some economic benefit. So technically it's feasible, but there are also other measures that can be put in place to kind of check the siltation of dams. And we're doing a study now to look at it and to find some more clever ways of dealing with the situation.
All right, Engineer Suleiman Adamu, Honorable Minister of Water Resources, we want to thank you very much for joining us, and good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning again.
All right, so that does it for our conversation on Good Morning Nigeria today. We'd like to appreciate all our guests and indeed wish Nigerians happy Democracy Day celebration. But just before we go, we would like to inform you that the Nigerian Television Authority has produced a series of documentaries on various sectors of the economy to mark 3 years of the Buhari administration. Now, the broadcast of the documentaries will begin immediately after we sign off on today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. That is to say, the broadcast will begin at 9 a.m. All NTA network stations, of course, are hooking up to that broadcast. On that note, we'd like to thank you for being with us today. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. Good Morning Nigeria returns tomorrow, same time at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And I am Joy Osiagu. Thank you very much for staying with us, and do enjoy the rest of your day.